to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
But sure, if they got documentation, they got a better job working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992.
Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared,
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third-generation family.
Someone asked me the other day, why is it that more of America's farmers have not yet turned on Trump? After all, he's cut farm-to-table programs, he's cut farm-to-school lunch programs, he's cut all kinds of funding for, structural improvements, drainage, climate resilience programs. He's cut all kinds of grant funding for farmers all across this country. He's cut USAID that has cost America's farmers billions. Ask farmers in Nebraska how they're doing right now. We are seeing silos full of corn and wheat and sorghum that go unsold. The government, United States government, had promised to buy these crops, and then they pulled the contracts because Elon Musk gutted USAID. And all of this food, not just grains, but also milk that is turned into powdered milk, that was meant to go and secure our interests abroad and feed hungry people, is now sitting unsold in the United States of America, and that is hurting our farmers. Why are more of them not pissed off? And somebody else said, well, why are more farmers not freaking out that all of their migrant labor is being snatched by ICE? We are seeing ICE running into farm fields, snatching migrants who are toiling, picking our food, the food to feed the American people. They are coming in and tackling and snatching these folks, abducting them, and stuffing them into detention facilities where billions of our taxpayer money is going to keep these people imprisoned. And someone in my comments who was from the Midwest said, oh, don't you understand, in a lot of these states, especially a lot of the grain farmers and dairy farmers, they don't actually use that much immigrant labor. If they have very mechanized, agricultural setups on their farms, then they're not really interfacing that much with migrant labor. And yes, I totally understand for those folks who are growing large amounts of soybeans and grains, that makes sense. If you don't have to interact with brown people on a regular basis, you can dehumanize them more easily. You can justify what Trump is doing more easily. But there are farmers all around the country that rely heavily, heavily on migrant labor, especially where I am on the West Coast. And they are about to feel the hurt real bad. It's starting to be that time of year where more and more crops need to be picked. And while it was an issue earlier in the year, like in Florida and Southern California, we saw a little bit of farm laborers who didn't want to show up to pick strawberries and broccoli and citrus because they were worried about ICE. Well, now we are seeing the Republicans in Congress. Republicans are now the fascist party of this country, right? They are fully consolidated as a fascist party. They have now agreed to take billions of our tax dollars and expand ICE tenfold. The Republicans in Congress have now given Donald Trump $150 billion of our hard-earned tax money to create his own massive secret police force, his own Gestapo that will be terrorizing communities all over the country. There's $150 billion for raids, but $0 for Medicaid. Do not forget that Republicans did that. Republicans did that to all of us. And so now we are seeing a tenfold increase in the completely rational fear of our hardworking migrant farm workers who feed this nation. And guess what? Farmers all around the country, right at a time when cherries and soon plums and peaches and all kinds of other crops around the country are coming ripe, crops that by and large need to be picked and sorted by hand. There's a massive farm labor shortage because workers are terrified that they are going to be snatched off the job, that while they are working, someone will snatch them out of the field and they will never see their families again. I'd like to point you to a piece from Spokane Public Radio from last week. It's called "Fear of Ice Causes Labor Shortage for Washington Cherry Growers." We've had 200 years of migrant farm workers in this country traveling from Mexico up the West Coast, following the picking season to harvest our food. Now, we've also had 200 years of abusing those farm workers, exploiting them, refusing to pay them a living wage or giving them safe work conditions. Yes, one of the things I've said previously is that I hope at the end of all of this, one of the things that comes out of this is that we understand the people who pick our food, they deserve dignity, they deserve a living wage, they deserve safe working conditions. They also deserve justice, and the people who are doing this to them deserve accountability. What we're seeing is a lot of the stone fruit pickers up here in Oregon and Washington, they come up from California and they are afraid to make that drive. They are afraid that there will be checkpoints where they will get abducted. They are afraid once they get here that they will be abducted by ICE. And so they're hiding. I can only imagine what kind of food insecurity that creates for their families. So the Spokane Public Radio piece talks about how the cherry picking labor shortage in Washington state is reaching a crisis point. They interview a woman named Rosa Hernandez, who is picking cherries at an orchard in Wenatchee. She was one of the few who was willing to make the drive from California to Washington to pick this year. She did so because she's an American citizen. But she said even though she is a U.S. citizen, she was terrified to make the drive because she's a brown person. We are seeing ICE doesn't give a shit about your citizenship. If you look like you could potentially be an immigrant or have immigrant ancestry, if you happen to have any kind of an accent, if you speak Spanish, they don't care, they will snatch you. And there's no oversight for you. There's no protection for you right now. She talks about how she did the long drive up to Washington state and she was afraid to pull over at rest stops to go pee because they have heard that ICE agents are waiting at rest stops. They're waiting at gas stations to snatch people. One of the farmers that they interviewed said that he's really terrified they can't get people to pick their cherries and that impacts the financing of their farm. So when you couple the fact that fruit is rotting on the tree with the cuts in grant programs and the volatile economic circumstances in the United States, he's worried that what we're going to see is by next year, more and more farms will be going under. Even Fox News for Seattle, even Fox News is covering this story, saying the growers are not just worried about cherries, they are worried that these labor shortages will extend to apples, grapes, and many other fruits that are grown in Washington state, also grown here in Oregon. Fox News called immigrant farm workers essential to our agricultural system. They said growers across central Washington say fears of immigration enforcement and potential ICE raids are keeping workers away from the field and are currently threatening to leave millions and millions of dollars worth of cherries unpicked, rotting on the trees. The Fox News story went on to interview migrants who said they are scared to show up and that the fear will compound. It will get worse and worse as ICE escalates. And then interestingly enough, there's a whole section in this article for Fox News readers that is called Why You Should Care. Not surprisingly, maybe. It doesn't say you should care because what is being done to our immigrant farm workers is inhumane, it's cruel, it's illegal, it's terrible, it's an ethnic cleansing in the United States. No. Why you should care, Fox News reader, is because Washington state is the nation's top producer of sweet cherries. And if the fruit is not being picked, that means that there is going to be a shortage and prices are going to go up. Even a delay, even if there's just a delay in picking, fruit is rotting on the tree. Fruit is an ephemeral crop, y'all. Fruit can't just sit there hanging out. You have to pick it when it's ripe. And so any delay, any shortage of labor for any period of time is immediately lost revenue.
$55%. That's the rate that American farmers have been declaring bankruptcy over and above last year. 55% more bankruptcies of American farmers. And it's the conditions, the economic conditions that are contributing to it. A lack of a workforce, a lack of labor, tariffs, the whole 9 yards. Everything this administration has done is contributing to these people losing everything. They're losing the farm, right? So why is this important? Why should you care? Well, what happens when a family declares bankruptcy is that their property is sold in a sheriff's auction to satisfy creditors. So they lose their property. It's fire sailed. And, you know, if they've got a $1 million loan on the 1,000 acres they got, and they get $500,000 for the property, well, they're on the hook for another $500,000. We're talking about generations that have farmed land, that have been farmers their entire lives, losing everything because they can't sell a product overseas. I mean, most of our corn and grain is sold to other countries, and the tariffs are making it more expensive than other options. So they can't sell what they've farmed for decades or centuries. So what's the end run here? Why is this happening? Well, my speculation is that there's large, massive farming operations out there, very large corporations that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of acres. For example, the King Ranch. And 25 years ago, they had 1 million acres and several 100,000 head of cattle. And they're looking to expand. So how do you expand cheaply? Well, what you do is you get somebody to pass legislation that's going to make family farms file bankruptcy. And then instead of giving them fair market value for it, you can just buy the land in foreclosure. So, well, out of bankruptcy. So that's the end run here. That's what all these policies are doing, is simply gutting family farmers to allow corporations to get farmland cheaply. It's a shame. It's sad. It's shameful. But that's what this administration is going for, you know. Line the pockets of the big corporations, the big farmers, and shaft us.
Well, thanks to the big orange gremlin looking motherfucker, multiple farms in Texas just shut down overnight. Why? Because ICE raids made nearly 100% of the workforce completely vanish. People ran, got detained, or flat out got scared to death and never came back. Dairy farms are in panic mode right now. Cows gotta be milked every 8 hours. And guess what? Nobody's showing up to milk these fuckers, folks. This isn't some Texas problem either. This is happening across the entire nation. ICE isn't just out here enforcing some bullshit laws. They are actively crippling our food systems with fear and chaos. You want to talk about consequences? This ain't just about politics anymore, y'all. It's about what's on your table, what's in your fridge, or what's about to be missing from your fucking store. These Nimrods aren't saving America. They're starving it.